that these people were employed in 2017 and 2016 respectively, that the governor employed them in the county in advance of her election as governor. I'm just wondering, good people, what do this protect Senate to be? Can somebody in good conscience sustain this case to the wire, as the council of the assembly have done? Dr. Gitonga Jeremiah Ruturi came to this house. I would invite you to look at the affidavit of that witness, but I'll not read it because of time. The very first paragraph of that witness, the very first paragraph, when his memory is still clearest, he told the advocate drafting his affidavit that he is a director of IV Healthcare. When he stood here and was told to introduce himself, he took an oath before this Senate, and from his mouth perjured himself on oath, saying, I am a director of IV Healthcare. Learned Counsel Dr. Okubasu, exercising that power in the book of Proverbs chapter 17, confronted him in cross-examination. He asked him, if this Senate were to take the liberty and call a Form CR12 from the company's registry, would you appear on that CR12 as a director of IV Healthcare? He stuttered, and in that moment spoke about 3 other companies completely not mentioned in that affidavit. It turned out he was not a director of IV Healthcare. At paragraph 8 of his affidavit, which was read to him, he says that he was surprised upon arrival in China that the delegation that the governor had recommended to IV Healthcare were not a technical team. When he arrived in China, he learned that. It turned out the man never went to China. He stuttered. Honorable Mugambi Rindikiri Murwidania will be remembered by this house as a leader who was captured on video supporting the most sexually offensive remarks against a woman in the 21st century before the country's Senate, asserted by another leader, Mpuri Aburi, the honorable member. These are the people that we have been told have mounted a convincing case. Let's face it. I used to be taught, Mr. Speaker, sir, that no one makes good deals with bad guys. Can you get credible evidence from these most incredible fellow citizens? Is it possible? Allow me, Mr. Speaker, sir, to now deal with the case, the charges presented by the County Assembly before this House. From the very outset, allow me to very humbly invite the honorable senators to administer a caution to themselves individually as you consider this matter. Individual senators, please caution yourself that the case of the County Assembly cannot be permitted to mutate from the charges that were prosecuted at the County Assembly. It cannot be allowed. Rule 19 of the 5th schedule of the standing orders, which provides for the procedure of the impeachment process before the whole House, as we are doing now, prescribes that in presenting its evidence, the Assembly shall not introduce any new evidence that was not a part of the allegations against the governor by the County Assembly, as forwarded by the Speaker of the County Assembly to the Speaker of the Senate. This case cannot be allowed to mutate. There must be logic behind this. The logic is there must be definitiveness on what the governor is responding to. Allow me to deal with charges 1 counts 1 and 5 together. These counts are found in the Assembly's documents, Volume 1. Count 1 has 4 specific allegations. Allegation number 1, that the governor has violated certain provisions of the Constitution and the law. They are specified there, I'll not read them, by engagement, connivance, and stroke or complicity in the following. First, honorable senators, allow me to tell you this charge is duplex. It is a defective charge. If not for anything else, Mr. Speaker, sir, this means that you must discourage this form of drafting. It is poor drafting. The governor has to elect whether she is going to defend herself against engaging in those acts, against conniving in those acts, or against complicity in those acts. In law, that's an impossible task. What the Senate, my apologies, what the County Assembly has done is to cast a wide net, in the words of the fishing vocabulary, in the hope that it may catch crabs, fish, and perhaps some snakes, so that you say, anyway, we may have grabbed a lot of snakes, but there's one fish, so vote for this fish. It's a poor way of dealing with a case of this nature. A case of this nature requires military precision in the charges. Be that as it may, the governor is accused of doing those things in the form of embezzlement of county funds through the governor's sisters, Rose Kenya Gwantai and Miriam Gwantai, brother Kenneth Gwantai Muragiri, brother-in-law Nefat Kinywa, and nephew to the governor's husband, Edwin Mutuma Muragiri, all of whom are now collectively referred to as the governor's relatives, period. But the governor comes to this court and says, no, I want to give you evidence to show that I have not embezzled any funds through these people. How will I do this? I will give you vouchers to show what each of these people is being paid for. That is a sufficient answer to this charge. You are then told, no, he has not accounted for 70 million shillings. Honorable senators, where is the charge for failure to account for 70 million shillings that the governor is supposed to respond to in that form? Number 2, where is the charge of failure to account for 78 million shillings? Because if that charge came as such, then the governor would have been under an obligation to secure her finance people, to give her material in respect of all the 78 million. Then we can interrogate the material one by one. Is this credible? Is this not credible? And so forth. Once we have supplied that, we must show a causal connection between that money and the person of the governor. The governor was taken through a fairly humiliating exercise. She was reduced to a clerical officer. You are senators, you are state officers, you get impressed. You know the clerical process of dealing with a single imprest at a time. Mr. Speaker, sir, if you were personally to be held responsible for the imprest process in this house, would you possibly transact the business of this house? That is a matter this house must reflect on in your private moment before you take a vote. Even the clerk, who is the administrative head of this house, if he was told to personally explain each of the individual signatures in every signature of 100 vouchers, would that be possible? Allow me to tell you why this charge is premature. An audit process presents a different environment, because an audit process, the auditor comes, receives documents, reviews them, asks questions, people go back to the drawing board, review their own material, come back. The whole process takes time until we have a report. Now here is where you file documents and you are bound by those documents. There's no feedback. So in this case, we have no audit report. The county assembly should have been patient for the auditor to audit these accounts, raise specific audit queries, fail to get answers to those audit queries, then mount a case based on the specific audit queries that are not answered. What has happened by counsel for the assembly before you is a sad commentary on how not to prosecute an impeachment motion. The governor is accused.
Counsel, you have 15 minutes.
That's okay, Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank you so much. The governor is accused of withdrawing county funds under the guise of payment for various supplies by the governor's relatives, yet they, the governor's relatives, are ineligible to tender for or supply any goods or services to the county. Counsel for the assembly, in cross-examining the governor, completely misled this house, and I was saddened because counsel have a duty of candor. Despite our sectarian interests, counsel have a duty of candor. When you retire, honorable senators, look at volume 2 of the county assembly's documents. When you look at volume 2 of the county assembly's documents, you will discover that from page 1 to page 29, from page 1 to page 29 is a letter by